We often have scientists and engineers up here giving the research presentation, but we thought it would be appropriate today to have someone who studies the teaching of science, which is an increasingly important problem for all of us as science plays a larger and larger role in broader societal issues. Charles Andy Anderson has been a professor in the Department of Teacher Education at Michigan State since receiving his PhD in science education from the University of Texas at Austin in 1979. He is past president of the National Association for Research in Science Teaching. He has been co-editor of the Journal of Research in Science Teaching and associate editor of Cognition and Instruction. He won the Career Award for Distinguished Contributions to Science Education through Research from the National Association for Research in Science Teaching. His current research focuses on the development of learning progressions leading to environmental science literacy for K through 12 and college students, and using this research as the basis for improving curriculum and instruction in schools. Andy.
So thank you for inviting me to share my research with you. In my brief time today, I'd like to talk with you about the Carbon Time Project. It's funded by a $7 million grant from the National Science Foundation. Over a 5-year period, we'll be working with about 150 teachers, their students, and school districts in 3 states. Our partners include the Seattle Public Schools, BSCS, the Colorado School of Mines, and the Natural Resources Ecology Laboratory at Colorado State University. My field is science education. And this is a time of promise and challenge in science education. As you may know, proposed new Michigan science standards are currently under review in the state of Michigan. These standards are based on the next generation science standards, the national next generation science standards, and they're pretty much unanimously endorsed by Michigan science educators and science teachers. One of the things we like about them is that they represent a move toward focusing on deep understanding of the most important scientific ideas. And they're based on a consensus definition of deep understanding. Understanding requires integration of science and engineering practices, cross-cutting concepts, and disciplinary core ideas or science content. I'll explain what this means using one specific example. This graph represents some data that it's important for all students to understand. We call this graph the Keeling curve. It shows measurements of carbon dioxide concentrations at Mauna Loa taken by Charles David Keeling and his successors over almost 60 years. We can see both a yearly cycle and a long-term trend in atmospheric concentrations of carbon dioxide. The concentration of CO2 goes down every summer and up every winter. This pattern is seen only in monitoring stations in the northern hemisphere. But every year the concentration goes down a little less and up a little more. So what would it mean for students to truly understand this graph? Here are some key aspects of understanding the Keeling curve using the 3 dimensions of the Michigan Science Standards. The key practices include interpreting and analyzing data and explaining using scientific models. Cross-cutting concepts that students need to use include connecting system models at different scales, conservation of energy and matter, and tracing energy and matter through systems and processes, and their disciplinary core ideas in the life sciences, earth sciences, and physical sciences. I'll go a little deeper into one of the 2 practices, explaining the Keeling curve. The explanation of the annual cycle is on the left side of this diagram. The driver of the pattern is photosynthesis in land plants, which uses carbon dioxide and takes place mostly in the summer. Photosynthesis is balanced by cellular respiration in all organisms, which emits CO2 and takes place throughout the year. So photosynthesis dominates in the summer, cellular respiration in the winter, and these processes inside the cells of plants, animals, and decomposers affect global concentrations of carbon dioxide. The driver of the long-term trend is combustion of fossil fuels, in which we're digging carbon atoms up that have been sequestered underground for millions of years and putting them back into the atmosphere. So all of this is needed for a reasonable explanation of the Keeling curve. In order to explain the Keeling curve, students need to explain global carbon cycling. And in order to explain global carbon cycling, they need to understand chemical changes that are taking place when fuel is burned and inside the cells of plants, animals, and decomposers. This is a major intellectual accomplishment for any student. The Carbon Time Project is based on 10 years of research into how photosynthesis, cellular respiration, combustion, and other carbon transforming processes develop in students. Through this research, we've built a learning progression, a sequence of stages through which students can develop three-dimensional scientific understanding. The Carbon Time curriculum is designed to build that understanding. It includes 3 key components. Carbon Time units and assessment system are available free online. The units include systems and scale, focusing on connecting systems at different scales and combustion. Animals, plants, and decomposers, focusing on carbon cycling processes, carbon transforming processes in each kind of organism. Ecosystems, focusing on ecological carbon cycling and energy flow. And human energy systems, focusing on global carbon cycling and how humans are affecting it. Online professional development is a second component, and we support professional support networks in Michigan, Colorado, and Washington State. Each Carbon Time unit includes investigations that help students investigate scientific arguments from evidence about how the systems that they're studying transform matter and energy. The units also use multiple representations to help students master scientific explanations of carbon transforming processes. We use PowerPoint animations to zoom in to flames and organisms, connecting what they can see at the macroscopic scale with the chemical changes inside cells that are driving the growth and motion of organisms. For example, here's one stage in the process of zooming into a plant leaf to explain the process of photosynthesis. It shows carbon dioxide, water, oxygen, and glucose moving into and out of a cell in the leaf. This is followed by additional slides zooming into the cellular and atomic molecular scales. Another representation of the chemical change involves having students use molecular models. We use twist ties to represent energy in light and high energy bonds so students can trace both matter and energy. This work with models and representations is connected with coaching in speaking and writing chemical equations and scientific explanations of cellular processes, photosynthesis in this case. So, how well does this work? Here are data from a previous grant. The blue bars show the percent of students achieving three-dimensional understanding in non-carbon time, middle school, high school, and biology courses for science majors. The red bars are pretest and post-test averages for middle school students using Carbon Time units. The green bars are pretest and post-test averages for high school students using Carbon Time units. Note that on the one hand, high school students taking Carbon Time do better than college science majors after taking college biology courses. On the other hand, only about 30% of Michigan high school students, or high school students in general, this is several states, are achieving goals that are proposed for all students for the Michigan Science Standards. So we're proud of what we've accomplished, but we still have work to do. We're looking forward to pursuing it over the next 4 years. Now, the Michigan Standards are right. All students do need to understand the carbon cycling and the Keeling curve. In a democratic society, this needs to be shared communal knowledge, not elite knowledge that's reserved for a privileged few. Making this understanding something that's shared by almost all our citizens is a core goal of this project. So through this project, our work at MSU can have a significant impact on a critically important national issue. Thanks for inviting me, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have.
There'll be no quiz, Andy, on that. Thank you, Andy, very much.